So welcome everyone. My name is Howie Schwartz. I am the CEO and co-founder of Crowded. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. This is our fourth meetup that we've hosted, and it never ceases to amaze me just the level of response we get from both candidates and employers. Tonight, there's well over 600 people on the list trying to get in for 100 and something seats. So I always use the same joke. It's crowded, which is probably a good name for our company. So tonight is a little bit of a different format in a different host. So we're just so honored and privileged to be hosted by UBS. I'm going to introduce Ernie in a moment. The previous meetups that we did, going back to December, we actually hosted in our office when we thought maybe 30 people would show up for some pizza and beer. Was anyone at our December meetup in our office? It was a little crowded, wasn't it? Yes. So we actually shoved 110 developers in one little space, and we realized, wow, we're onto something here for these meetups. As you know, Crowded is the leading technology sourcing and engagement platform for developers and technology recruiters in the greater New York area. And what we thought originally would be a nice way to bring a few developers, have some beer, get some feedback from them, has really grown into a life of its own. Our last two meetups were over 300 developers, and again, the demand keeps on growing. So we're thrilled to have you here tonight. We're going to have a panel, and then after the moderated panel, we're going to have several of the employers who are within the Crowded platform are going to come up and talk about any job listings that they may have. It is super important that you keep your Crowded profile active. I'm sure you've heard me or someone else on my team say that multiple times, because all of the employers tonight and all the employers within Crowded who were not able to attend, they actively look at the profiles of all the Crowded members. And we actually have a special section within our employer portal that calls out which meetup you attended. And we have employers that specifically say, let me see the meetup attendees, because you guys are showing a lot of you guys are showing just a lot of passion to come out on a rainy Tuesday night is wonderful, and employers really do acknowledge that. So again, thank you from myself and the Crowded team. Any help that you guys need, we're in gray shirts today. We were in black shirts last time, but we ran out of shirts and had to order new ones. So it's wonderful to have you here. And again, thank you again to UBS for sponsoring us and working with us and hosting us. I wanted to introduce Ernie, and he's going to say a few words. Thank you again, everyone. And again,
well, thanks everybody for being here with us tonight. I think this is probably our first meetup ever. When Joe approached me about, Joe Rubin, it's Joe. For those of you who don't know Joe, wave. That's Joe. He approached me about hosting this event, and I thought, what a great opportunity to do something for a company that's doing so many great things. So thanks, Joe. So we have a great evening, as Howie mentioned. We've got somebody in our thought leadership group, Jeff Scott, who will be up here in a moment to just give you a sense of the kind of research that UBS produces. But I wanted to make some comments about fintech, and I came out of the fintech industry. I worked for a company called Dealogic, and we went public in 2004, and it kind of afforded me the opportunity to kind of do what I wanted to do, in which case now I'm a financial advisor. But fintech's important to us in a number of different ways. It gets business done every day. I think as financial advisors, we welcome the innovation and creativity that's coming out of the space. But I also feel like as financial advisors, fintech kind of leaves some things short. So I'm going to challenge all of you with an assignment for the future, which is try to beat us at our game. What we do is we meet with people face to face. Robo-advisors can't do that. Robo-advisors can't share, similar experiences that other clients have had, such as, something similar to yours. Robo-advisors can't recommend a great CPA and an attorney to work with. So, I challenge you to build that into whatever technologies you're building for your respective firms. And that said, I think despite the fact that we do all these great things, I think the one true value proposition is that we keep investors focused on a plan. We build a plan, we execute that plan, and then, folks that don't have a financial advisor tend to do the worst thing possible at the worst time. So there are plenty of investors today that still haven't recovered from the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. In fact, there was a recent industry study that showed over the last 20 years through 12/31/15, the S&P 500 is up almost 10%. The average investor did about 5%. So to kind of quantify that, if you had $10,000 in 20 years ago, and you just invested in the S&P 500 and you stayed the course, you didn't do anything, that turned into almost $70,000, so 7 times the money. If you're the average investor and you tried to time the market in and out, you ended up with around $27,000, or about 2.7 times the money. So the point there is, as you grow your wealth, and I'm sure you have, aspirations to be tech rock stars and millionaires, think about that. Talk to a financial advisor, talk to us. If you're looking to, build wealth, if you want to plan for the future, call us, call your financial advisor, call anybody, but, get some good advice. Okay. So Jeff Scott's going to come up here and he's going to talk about a research piece that we recently did that talks about millennials and boomers and the connection between the two. So the research piece is called The Ties That Bind. It has nothing to do with Bruce Springsteen's song, The Ties That Bind. I don't know, there's plenty of older people in the room that know Bruce Springsteen. He produced it in 1980, right, with Van Zandt and the E Street Band. So the question is, trivia question, who can tell me what album that song is on?
The River.
Awesome. You win something. I got a highlighter for you.
That's all he gets.
That said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jeff. So Jeff's responsible for leading the market research that UBS conducts among clients, investors, and advisors in the U.S. The research includes the UBS Investor Watch quarterly report, and tonight he'll be talking about the findings from one of these reports. This one focused on millennials. Jeff's been with UBS for over 10 years and has over 20 years of research experience. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jeff. Thank you.
All right, much easier.
We're going to ask that you use both microphones if you have one, because one is for video and then one's for the room. Thank you.
Okay, I'll see if I can manage that. Thank you, Ernie, and thank you, everyone. I will try and keep this relatively brief because I think the main event will be the panel that is following me. So, but I do think you'll find some of these findings interesting. And actually, I think some of them will relate to some of the comments Ernie made as far as some of the mistakes that investors make. And I think millennials in particular maybe been a little scared off by the financial crisis and tend to make actually even more of those financial mistakes than investors in general. But why don't we start? And really the focus of this piece was kind of about millennials and their relationship with their parents, who are generally boomers, and how that has changed the way they're approaching their lives and their careers, and then also to some extent their finances. So hopefully you can see this. The first thing is that basically boomers and millennials have redefined the way that parenting is done today. So for most boomers, they tended to view their parents as an authority figure. You can see in the case of fathers that for boomers, 57% viewed their father as an authority figure. You can see that number shifting way down for millennials. It's only 36%. Much more likely to start viewing your parent as a mentor or even as a peer and a friend. And that really changes the way that they interact. So for example, it's really a much closer relationship than boomers had with their parents. And that continues into adulthood. So in college, millennials are much more likely to be talking with in contact with their parents multiple times a week, 73% versus 34% of boomers. That's something that's continued after college as well. Much more likely to enjoy being with and talking with their parents than boomers did. Also, millennials much more likely to see the world as their oyster. They're more likely to have taken time off to travel abroad, more likely to have studied abroad, And generally, while boomers didn't necessarily rush to have family and kids, millennials are even more so sort of, getting some adventure and excitement in and experimenting before they settle down. One thing is that this new approach has kind of enabled millennials to do things a little differently. So when it comes to their careers, boomers have generally, those responding to our survey, they've had a career of 37 years, and during that time they had on average 4 different jobs. Millennials, on the other hand, in 8 years have had an average of 3 different jobs. So there's much more willingness to experiment, try different things. And that's partly enabled by the support from their parents, as well as other changes, right? The world moves faster, it's more globally connected, etc. But this just kind of highlights, probably not surprising, but I think it shows what a stark difference there really is. And as I mentioned, part of the reason millennials have been able to take this approach of, okay, I want to travel the world, I want to, not necessarily just work at one company and slowly work my way up, is they kind of have more of a safety net from their parents. Millennials are much more likely to have gotten financial support from their parents after college than boomers were. There was more of a, okay, I'll get you into college and maybe pay for it, and then you're kind of on your own, than the way that parents and their kids are interacting today. And the interesting thing is some of this is necessity, right? After the financial crisis, it was harder to find a job. It was a difficult time to be coming into the workforce, but it's something that the parents are really glad to do. So we found that 80% enjoy helping out their kids. It's not something they see as a burden. And you can see some of the ways. It's things like health insurance, home buying, car insurance, all the way on down to things like just sharing their Netflix or HBO Go accounts. Another aspect of this is more often moving back home with their parents. You can see millennials, 63% at some point after college moved home, and not necessarily out of necessity, but out of a chance to save money, wait till they felt more stable in their career, and actually preference. In a lot of cases, you can see they're happy to stay with their parents, and their parents are happy for them to stay with them. Switching a little to how the differences in terms of how they manage their finances. Boomers are much more likely to buy into those principles, some of which Ernie was talking about: buy and hold, follow a financial plan. So you see 89% of boomers prefer buy and hold over timing the market. It's not to say that millennials are the opposite, but you can see 42% of millennials are more trying to time the market, usually very hard to do successfully. In this Investor Watch series we tend to see investors, become more optimistic when the market's done well, become more pessimistic when it's done poorly, and they just kind of project forward what has happened recently, rather than being forward looking or just sort of staying the course. Probably not the best. This is something where they should be following their parents' advice. Another aspect of this is millennials are more likely to dip into their retirement accounts already. So into those 401ks or IRAs, if they've started those, 25% have already done so. Whereas you can see for most boomers, that's something they would never even consider doing. But interestingly, we found millennials, they're not very happy about how they position their portfolios. And in our survey, we're talking to affluent millennials, so there aren't people who are struggling. But they do tend to be actually quite conservative, probably because of their experience in the crisis, maybe seeing their parents' nest eggs drop considerably in 2008, 2009. And so they actually tend to hold a lot more cash in their portfolios, waiting for the right time to invest. And they don't seem to be very happy about it. Only 29% are happy with the way their portfolio is positioned versus nearly 80% of boomers. And so they're really looking for financial advice. They're looking for financial planning. They're looking for help on investing, budgeting, and of course they have needs like children, college saving, and buying a home. So, there seems to be some acknowledgement that maybe they could do it differently. They tend to not have a financial advisor yet. Interestingly, only 10% are using their parents' financial advisor, but actually 3 in 4 would consider doing so. So, if they have trouble finding their own, that may be one route. But in general, what we found is they are open to advice. Certainly, they're interested in digital approaches, but I think what we found is, in most cases, they're interested in a combination where they're getting, there could be an automated digital advice, but also they want the person to help them, to help them with some of the things that Ernie was talking about. That's really all I wanted to cover. So let me, just see if there are any questions, and I'm happy to answer those.
So can you go over again? So boomers were born what? Post World War II, like in the
46
40s?
to 64.
Oh, to
So they're
64.
kind of in early 50s to early 70s.
Oh, okay. That's really wide. Has that always been the definition of boomers? 'Cause
So
that's a huge area.
boomers is always that.
Okay.
The other groups are less well defined. So millennials, you'll get a lot of different definitions. In our case, they were people who are currently 21 to 36. But yeah, boomers, that is well established. The other generations are not so clear.
Some of the findings seemed a little bit kind of a little bit slanted, like to say, the job market is completely different now from 70 years ago, or whatever. So sort of to phrase it as if it was a choice rather than some sort of like a lifestyle, to find basically, having the 3 jobs within 8 years versus, it's not really, it's like apples and oranges because, the world doesn't stay static in the same way. So it's kind of a weird thing to
I think that's a fair point. Obviously, the world has changed. It's not just a choice, but it's a clear difference about the way millennials are experiencing their careers anyway versus boomers.
What is the source of this presentation? What is the science behind it?
Okay, so we do a survey and in this case, we surveyed nearly 3,000 investors, and a little more than 1,000 were millennials. It's an online survey. We do focus on affluent and high net worth investors, so they had to have a certain level of assets or income to be part of the survey.
Actually, guys, that'll be our last question. Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
If you've noticed that we have our new t-shirts, I'm not sure if anyone saw the new gray. This is the new look of the season. And on the back, it's not only a t-shirt, but it's also our coding challenge. So if any of you can figure out what's wrong with this, you get a job at Crowded. So take a look at your t-shirt later. I'm actually joking. There's nothing wrong with it because I coded this. That is the first time I've ever coded a t-shirt, but it was awesome. We will be giving them out at the end of the conference. Just trade in your lanyard, and we will give you a t-shirt. So we spent a lot of time at the last meetup talking a lot about technical stuff like coding challenges and what types of skills that are needed to get a job as a developer nowadays. But I wanted to spend a little more time. We've been interviewing quite a few people at Crowded. We're growing the team, and while our director of engineering spends a lot of time on the technical side, we then get to meet all of the candidates and then have less technical conversations. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that as well. That is a big part of getting a job, is that interview, is you going in there and actually meeting face to face. Ernie mentioned a little while ago, the robo-advisors. There's only so much technology can do before you get the job, and then you actually have to go in, meet face to face, and have a legitimate conversation to get that job. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that. But before I do, why don't we go straight down the row here and just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your company, what you do there.
And Joe, we're going to need to pass the mic
Pass
to
this?
the person. Yes, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephen King. I work at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Basically, there's 3 main functions for our organization. We do cancer research, cancer care, and then also education.
Hi, I'm Virginia Lloyd, and I work at Spotify. I'm guessing a lot of you probably listen to music and are aware of Spotify, and we're a streaming service, so I don't need to go into a lot of detail there, but I work on the recruiting team. I just joined about a month ago.
Hi, I'm Laura McCarthy. I'm the head of machine learning at a company called Instadat. It's a startup in the fintech space, so we do financial forecasting in real estate, ETFs, and we've done some projects in financial sales prioritization.
Hello, thank you. My name is Sean Chesley. I work in recruiting, supporting the wealth management business here at UBS. Prior to that, I spent 12 years supporting our technology recruiting, not only domestically but globally.
Hey everybody, Sean Lee, another Sean. I'm the Director of People and Culture at Bombfell. We're a venture-backed fashion tech startup. We provide online personal styling service for guys across the United States.
So we have quite a bit of different companies here, and I'm guessing you all speak to somebody definitely before they actually get a job at your company. So let's just kick it off with the most important thing. The most important thing I think is the personality. Is the personality of that person as important as the technical skills that they bring to the table?
I would say yes, very much so. Pretty much for our tech groups, we're looking for people that are collaborative, who are curious, who like to find novel solutions to problems. And I think what's most important is people who are keen on their development, their own personal development. We really love people like that. So for us, that's what we're looking for.
At Spotify, it's pretty similar to what he just described. Playful is also one of our core values. So just being very sincere in who you are, not being afraid to show it. We really appreciate just genuine diversity throughout the entire organization. I know there's a big push for that right now, but I think in general at Spotify it's even more so. We've got a lot of initiatives going on right now that are tailoring to that. We really believe that the experience and perspective of a lot of different people have really helped to bring us to where we are right now. And being a Swedish company, very international in focus, and bringing music to everybody, we can all kind of relate to that. I think it's even more so important for a lot of things that we're doing, especially in machine learning. So. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so I would echo the sentiment of both the panelists who went before me. But I would say as a startup, one thing that we're looking for as well is someone who is willing to adapt and be very versatile. So we're always trying to push the forefront of technology, and so if some package that we want to implement is in Java or it's in Python or whatever it is, we're looking for people who can really adapt, are willing to wear multiple hats, and are excited to continue to learn even if it isn't in their current skill set.
I think for us it's the same thing. Obviously the technology skills is the backbone, right? And that kind of gets people within the door. But for us, we focus a lot on the collaboration. It's something that we drive as a global initiative, not only within technology, but throughout the bank in terms of what we look for. We also focus on challenge in a respectful way, but really challenging how we do things. Not necessarily questioning where things are wrong, but also offering up solutions. So we really try to put incentives, if you will, within the employee population to think about those things and push back in a real strong fashion. So we're trying to constantly improve things. And then the other piece is accountability. Really showing a lot of integrity in terms of what you do and how you do it. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. We're kind of opening up to it and really trying to focus on moving things forward.
Tough going last. I think you guys said everything. You go first. Yeah, I echo pretty much what everybody has said. For us, when I joined, one of the first initiatives was to clearly define our values. So when we do assess someone for their cultural fit, we don't just say, I don't think I'm going to get along with this person. We want you to be able to use our values and say, I think I'm concerned about this candidate because of this specific value that we hold dear at our organization. So accountability is one of them. being substantive, having open communication, having a positive attitude, and being respectful to your coworkers. So those are our 5 values, and we assess that on every interview for every candidate.
So, Andy, can you bring down the other lavaliers, please? So, in the meantime, I want to build on that a little bit. So, the accountability, the cultural fit. You're at a fashion company. We have a medical company. We have a financial company. We have music. We have a lot of different companies up here. Is it the same type of person? If they all had the same skills, is it the same type of person that could work at every one of these companies? You know, is it the same kind of? It's obviously a different cultural fit, but assuming all the same skills, and again, everyone wants somebody to be trustworthy and respect their coworkers. Like, I don't think anybody's going to argue those points differently. Nobody wants. Yeah, I want like disrespect and nobody's going to say. So those are the standard answers that I expect here. But is there a different mentality people should have when they're interviewing at a different type of company like the ones that we have up here?
I'll go first.
Sure.
Yeah, I think for us at Baumfeld, we don't really care which industry you're coming from. I think the person we interviewed who did the most phenomenal job in our interview process actually came from an insurance company, and we actually did not expect that at all. Not to say there's anything wrong with insurance companies, but so we are totally okay with any industry that you come from. What we care about is, are you interested in our product and learning more about our product and solving the problems that we face every single day? And we look for candidates that have done the research, understand our competitors in the market, maybe went through the onboarding process to see what that experience is like. So expressing and showing that genuine interest is what we look for.
Thank you. I think obviously we focus on kind of those 3 aspects that we're always looking for in candidates. We are very much open to different profiles and different backgrounds and different products in terms of coming on board. But it really depends a lot on the area that you'd be working within UBS. Some of our roles, a lot of the roles, if you're supporting some of the front office functions, whether you're talking about investment banking or you're talking about wealth management, those do require domain expertise. So I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but depending on the area, we really do look for people who understand the banking area. Depending on the level, though, we have the ability, and we spend a lot of time on training people within the business. We do offer a lot of exciting platforms. We look for people who are intellectually curious and really interested in global work. A lot of the stuff that we do is working with global teams, whether it's within India or Hong Kong or Zurich, Switzerland, where we're based, London and New York. So I think we're open to those factors.
So at our company, I would say that we are also industry agnostic. I think we look mainly for a passion and a belief that our technology is really going to be at the forefront and interesting, and that our candidates believe in it. So I would say we focus less on previous experience and what industry they're coming from. Obviously, since we're in the financial space now, understanding of financial products is a plus, but I wouldn't say that would be a deterrent.
I think a lot of this stuff applies kind of across the board, just in my experience. So I think a lot of you probably already have this part of it somewhat figured out by this point, but I think at Spotify, the biggest challenge is sort of standing out on the front end when you're applying. Last year, we had over 200,000 applications, which is a lot to sift through, and we hired 1,100 people, which was actually doubling the company in size, but it's still just a fraction of the total applicants. So really, timing is kind of everything when you're applying, which isn't fair necessarily, but there are a lot of things that you can do to kind of stand out. And I would say that I get a number of in-mails from people constantly, here's my profile, do you have anything that fits my background? It helps a lot if you can do the work on your own and then approach somebody and say, hey, I found this specific job and I think that I'm a great fit for it. Or doing something to kind of stand out in a different way. We do a lot of things within open source, and we have our own Scala API, Shio. So we've had candidates that have actually gone and used that and connected it to something else, and it's caught our eye, and we've ended up hiring them that way. So I think if you can kind of stand out to the people that you're really trying to get in front of to start with, that's going to help tremendously just in the rest of the process.
So for our organization, it depends on the part of the organization that you interview for. So there's 3 parts. There's Memorial, which is the hospital. For that, if you're trying to do systems administration, we're going to want you to have healthcare experience. The other 2 areas, the research arm and the corporate arm, you can pretty much come from any industry. We're looking for people that are strong in the skill sets that we're looking for. So be prepared for, and I'm sure with all of these other companies, be prepared for a grueling technical interview. But we're just looking for strength and then somebody willing to help us achieve our goals.
So now let's talk about standing out for a minute. You bring up a good point because you said you have a ton of resumes coming in each year. I'm guessing that's across the board, right? So what else makes you stand out? Is it just pinging you on LinkedIn 5 times? Is there like a 3-day rule, like after the interview when I should call you? Like how does this work? What borders on like I forgot all about you and like to like restraining order, like leave me alone? Like where's the safe spot? Where's that safe spot in the middle?
I don't think quantity over quality.
Okay.
Yeah, that part is definitely taken care of in a lot of cases. But if you can, like for example, we actually had a guy. I don't know if he created this himself somehow or if he just purchased an ad on Facebook, but it ended up being targeted at a lot of Spotify employees, and they were made aware through their Facebook feed that this guy is interested in opportunities, and it's just so clever that we had a Slack channel that was just like blowing up from this guy. So we had some people that actually reached out to him and at least gave him the time of day. So I think that's just another good example of like how you can be creative and kind of approach it in a different way rather than just submitting your resume or, attacking recruiters on LinkedIn or after work.
You know how many ads you're going to see tomorrow? Nice. Any other cool pointers of how folks can stand out after that or during that interview?
I would say if you can provide projects that showed you've done like applied or real world work that shows impact, our hiring managers love that. If you don't have that, if you can just send them like sample code, they love that too. They just want to see that you're able to apply what you learned.
I think for our company, what we would be really interested too is like brainstorming. So, if you were to reach out to us and say, I've thought about, applying your technology in XYZ area, and I think it could really work, really showing an interest and, showing that you're thinking kind of longer term and outside the box than just saying, hire me because I'm great,
Is that during the interview? Do you find that people should email you after or before they actually get an interview if they show that sort of initiative beforehand?
Yeah, I think in all cases. So I think if you email us and you say, I'm interested in this company and I think I can help out in this way and really show interest in potential projects that you would want to work on or suggest a project, as well as in the interview process. I think that is also, very valid to have a very interesting conversation during the interview process, maybe a traditional conversation.
I think for us, I'd probably echo the same sentiments. If you look at technology recruiting and kind of how we have our organization, I think we have probably close to 1,000 roles open globally, probably about 150 within the US. So, and each recruiter probably manages anywhere from 30 to 40 roles, so they have a lot to go through. So I think it's really showing a passion for the particular interest, understanding the opening and trying to tie back experience, whether it's domain expertise or not, but really tying it back and offering how you can help or showing an interest within UBS and being a part of the financial markets is something that we look forward to. And I think for the folks who can really demonstrate that they've thought about it and not just necessarily applied or blindly reached out to the recruiters who might get 30 or 40 emails a day, I think that really helps in standing out.
So Sean, I know you're going last again here. There was probably like 3 good comments that you're like, damn, I was just about to say that. Okay. So let's swap it around now. Let's talk about like what makes maybe a lasting impression that would definitely make you not hire that person. Let's because I know there's people that you walk out of an interview, right, and you're like, did I just say that? Like, holy crap, I should have stopped talking like 5 minutes ago. That was awful. It was my worst interview yet. Like, let's go over a couple of things. Like, what have you heard that maybe they shouldn't say at an interview or shouldn't do after an interview?
Sure. I have a lot of examples, but I'll give kind of, I guess, a general suggestion or advice on what works for us and what we love seeing from candidates. I think because we're talking about engineering positions, sometimes we tend to forget that you have to still put in the effort to the whole interview process, and that starts from the moment you apply. So your email correspondence to the office manager who's scheduling your interview. Are you respectful to that person? Are you making spelling errors? Are you mixing up names, calling us bombshell, not bombfell? We see that all the time. So little details, because we're not a huge company, so we don't have thousands of positions. We only have a couple, so we're extremely selective in who we hire. So we look for that attention to detail. If you are mixing up names, if you are not following instructions on a coding challenge, that probably means you might make those same mistakes when we hire you. So making sure throughout the whole interview process you're really paying attention to detail, it would be my suggestion.
I would agree with everything that Sean said. I mean, for us, we look for a lot of the same things. I would tell folks it's always good to be positive during the interview. We always ask why you left a certain company, if you had a challenging situation, and how people speak about previous employers, previous managers. We definitely focus in on. We also look very much in terms of how you interact with support staff, whether it's a receptionist, you coming in to interview. We focus on those particular efforts, and those things really make a difference. The other thing is sometimes on resumes, embellishment. If it's on the resume, be prepared to speak to it, be prepared to talk to it. There's a specific program or project or programming language that you worked on, prepared to be tested on it. And for that kind of goes back to the integrity issue that we've spoken about. If it's on your resume, be prepared to be able to speak intelligently about that with the manager.
I think for us, in the data science field, and that's where we're hiring mainly, it's challenging to get intro level positions because a lot of companies are requiring 1 to 3 years experience. So something that we've seen and what we tend to not like is when people say, oh, this would be a great starter job, get it on my resume, and kind of, move on to a bigger company after. So I think as a startup, we really want that the candidates to be invested long term in our growth. And so I would say to not kind of, when you go into an interview, really think about how you could grow with this company long term, then, this would be great on my resume.
Does somebody actually say that? Like I'm going to be quitting here in like a month, but this is going to be great on my resume. That definitely falls under the don'ts, right?
I guess so. When I think of our organization, there's three things that come to mind. We're very collegial, there's a lot of innovation, and we're very supportive. So one, you're going to have to fit in with the team. I mean, we're very diverse, so everyone's really cool. So it's not very hard to fit in, but you have to want to work with the team and help the team achieve its goals. Second part, again, you have to be curious. You have to be innovative, and you have to want to find novel ways to solve problems. We really want that. And third, just the supportive factor. Just, again, being a part of the team and wanting to help MSK achieve its goals, because no matter what position you're in at MSK, we're all helping to achieve that goal of trying to fight cancer.
So let's talk about some other random questions that you ask. Obviously, we ask a lot of coding questions. I mean, you're in technology. We ask a lot of technology questions. What non-tech questions do you typically come up with? I mean, I like to always ask things like, oh, what's your favorite movie? Do you like Star Wars? Do you like Italian food? Like, do you guys have any random questions like that you could share with the audience?
Sometimes I start off with, why are you interested in our organization? I think you really have to have a great answer for that. Other than that, I might touch on some competencies that we've deemed are necessary for success in our organization from a high level. So I might ask you a question about adaptability. Tell me about a time when you had to significantly adapt to a change in your organization. Or I might ask you something about being proactive. Tell me how you've kept up with your skills. So those are some maybe more abstract questions that we might ask.
I tend to just keep it more broad when I'm talking to candidates. A lot of times I start off by just sharing a lot of insight on, in this case, Spotify, and I want to hear from your perspective some of the things that you've done that align with what we're working on, the role that you're talking to me about. I'm also looking for how passionate you are about what you're doing. Are you talking about projects that you've done that you've been really excited about? You can usually gauge how good someone is at their job by how passionate they are when they're talking about it. And also some of the terms that they might use in terms of like collaboration. So are you talking about your team and we and giving credit to some of the other people that you've worked with, or is it just all about, I did this, I did that sort of thing?
I'll just go very quickly here, but my approach is more to look at past experiences and to see what people have done and how excited they've been about the projects they've done, and kind of more just where they've been, what they've experienced, and where they want to go.
Similar to everybody who's done previously, we tend to focus from an HR perspective, going what we may call kind of technical, for all the roles that you've done, what you've done, size of the team to assess fit. We also spend a lot of time from an HR perspective around behavioral questions to assess some of those competencies and whether or not we would be a fit. At least with us, within UBS, most of the technology recruiters, we're not as technical, so some of the questions you've talked about in terms of case studies or coding tests, generally, the first round will be with HR. We're assessing some of the softer skills. The more technical questions, or to see how people think, will be when you start meeting with our business line, and they'll get into some of the questions you hear about, like you just mentioned. Our legal doesn't always like those questions.
At Baumfeld, we have a culture of consistent feedback, both positive and constructive. So we want to make sure that no matter how many years of experience you've had, do you have that constructive criticism that you can pull on previously that you're personally working on? And do you have the self-awareness and maturity to talk about it? So, we are coaching our managers to give consistent feedback to their reports every single day. And sometimes it's tough to hear constructive criticism on a consistent basis, but we feel that's the only way you can really grow. So, we always ask for a specific area that you're trying to improve on, both professionally or personally. And if you can speak to that and bring up a really great example, it definitely resonates with our interviewing team.
So I'm the only person who asks if you like Star Wars during an interview?
We do ask what you like to do outside of work. Actually, that sometimes trips up people because they don't expect that. Okay. And so we do definitely want to know what you also do outside of the office.
Okay, cool. So before we move on, quick survey. Who here likes Star Wars and Italian food? All right. That was not. All right, I'll see you all at the interview later. Okay, so I want to move on a little bit to coding challenges. I don't want to get too technical, but who here gives coding challenges? Does everybody do that or no?
Do you mean personally or as an organization?
I don't know if you issue personal coding challenges, but as an organization for an interview, do you give out coding challenges? So, yes. So 4 out of 5. Okay. All right. Now, how heavily do those weigh in? Do they have to pass that before you even see those people, or do they? How does that work for you guys? What's the process there?
Yeah, at Baumfeld, the first interview is a more culture fit interview, 30 minutes with our manager of talent acquisition. Then if you pass that, we send you a coding challenge that you do from the comfort of your own home. It should not take more than 60 minutes. We actually send it at a time of your choosing, so you can start it at that time, and we can see when you submit that coding challenge. If you do well on that, you come in person for about a 5 to 6 hour interview, and probably 4 to 5 of that is technical. So you'll meet multiple engineers, data scientists, and our co-founder and CTO. So a lot of algorithmic problem-solving questions and coding challenges, even on site.
We do not have 5 to 6 hours. we've actually recently gone through an effort, what we call complexity reduction around recruiting, to get the managers to agree to no more than 2 office visits, 4 to 5 interviews, depending upon level, right? Because we found some of the feedback that we got was it was just getting onerous in terms of the amount of times we were asking candidates to come back. Generally, though, when it comes to coding challenges or tests, it differs between business lines. Sometimes it'll be sent. You can do it at the comfort of your own home. A lot of times we do kind of case reviews where when people are on site, part of the interviewing process, you may meet with 3 or 4 folks. 1 or 2 of those individuals, you may have a panel style interview where you do a coding test, and then another person may be kind of assessing for a cultural fit.
So our process is you would go through a series of interviews with our team, and then we do kind of a mini project. So it wouldn't be just a coding challenge that you go home and sit and work on. It would be kind of more of an interactive small project to see how you work with the team. So after you were to pass the mini project, we're pretty confident that you're a good fit with the team, and we take it from there.
For ours, it kind of depends on the role. For general engineering, typically you'll talk to a recruiter first, and then you'll have a technical interview over Hangouts with an engineer or a manager. And usually it's a more collaborative coding and tech interview, so there'll be questions, but then there's also a coding piece to it on a live Google Doc of some sort. And then we'll bring you in for a full on-site round, where you'll meet with 4 or 5 different people, and there's a lot of coding and a lot of technical questions obviously involved in that too. And beyond that, it's an evaluation with the whole group just to kind of decide if we want to move forward with this person, and then an offer. So it's typically not too long in terms of turnaround time, and it's pretty efficient, I think, overall.
So for us, it does depend on the position and the business line. So within our strategy and innovation group, we're going to send you a HackerRank assessment. We'll have you complete that first, and then we'll talk to you if you pass it. So for our other groups, I might call somebody and just do a quick phone screen, see if this person has the necessary skills for the position, and then we'll hand them off to a team member who will give them a technical phone interview. If they pass that phone interview, we'll bring them in to meet the team. They might do maybe some whiteboard exercises or something like that. Other than that, we might have someone come in and do a case study. So if you're coming in for a strategic analyst position, we'll have you do a case study, analyze data, gain insights from it, and report it back to us.
So we once got a coding challenge back after 2 weeks, and it was perfect. It was perfect. Needless to say, we didn't hire that individual, so I'm going to say definitely get them back faster than 2 weeks. Before we wrap up, I wanted to just throw a little piece of good news. I got a call earlier today from somebody who came to our last meetup and then just got a job as a lead developer from somebody that they met at the meetup. So I love hearing success stories. So if anybody gets a job out of this, please call me anytime. I'd love to hear that stuff. So I do want to hear more success stories. So in the meantime, why don't we go down the row one more time and give a mention of an open position that you guys have at your company, or to maybe mention a few, whatever you have open, shout it out there for our folks in the audience here.
So we are looking for a senior front-end developer for our strategy and innovation group. If you're strong at JavaScript, talk to me. Otherwise, down the pipeline, we're looking for somebody that knows natural language processing to work in our biobank. Really interesting opportunity, brand new opportunity, so you can really grow and mold this position.
We're focusing a lot on machine learning and data engineering at this point. Data science also, but data engineering. So we're primarily using Scala and Python. We're moving to Google Cloud Platform, so an experience in that would be awesome.
We're mainly looking for machine learning specialists and SQL database specialists. So for SQL database, we're always looking to improve our speed and efficiency. So anyone who has a very strong skill and has experience in that, we'd be very interested to talk to you. As well as we're building out a web scraping, natural language processing leg to our technology. And so anyone that has experience with natural language processing, machine learning would also be of interest to us.
Thank you. So for us, it's probably not one position. I think I mentioned before we probably have 150. I would guess about 75 to 80 of those are core Java development. While it is nice to have domain expertise, but if somebody has a passion to learn the financial markets, that's something that we're always interested in. But we are pretty much around the clock. If we find strong Java development, we're always interested in talking to those individuals. We also have a lot of openings for business analysts. We're finding huge gaps in terms of being able to speak from the technology with our front office folks, and really understanding the requirements and driving some of these programs forward.
We are currently looking for mid and senior level full stack engineers, Python, HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, React. Also iOS engineers. Swift is definitely something that we're looking for, but if you've touched on it on maybe a personal project or so, that could be okay. But also mid to senior level for that as well.
All right, great. So before we thank our panelists and give you a chance to meet everyone, I did want to bring up, I said before we thank our panelists, I wanted to bring up Mark Roth, our co-founder at Crowded, to say a few words. Grab the...
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks, Joe, for moderating. Great panel, as usual. I just want to say a couple words about the Crowded platform. Sorry, Joe. So remember, all you guys have Crowded profiles, and it's really important that you go in there and update as much information as you can. Put a little, a couple paragraphs if you don't have it already about your experience and your background. Skills are really, really important. There's specific tags that you could put for different skills you have, Java, HTML, whatever it may be. Because the employers are in there and they're searching the database and they're going to put in, specific criteria. And if you want to pop up in their search, you need to be sure that your information is up to date and in there. The other thing I want to mention is that we recently rolled out our job tab. So if you guys, when you log in, you'll see at the top, it'll say jobs. You click on that, you could browse the jobs from our employers. There's probably about 150 jobs in there right now, so you could browse through those. And if you're interested, you click interested, and that sends a message to the employer with your name and profile. And if they're interested in talking to you further, they'll ping you back, and then you guys can start a conversation inside Crowded. So just wanted to mention those couple things. What we're going to do tonight is give you guys some more networking time. So we'll be here for another probably 35 minutes, and we encourage you. There are employers in the room. You guys could speak to the panelists if you want, and just make some connections. On your way out, try to hand the lanyards over, and we have T-shirts for you guys as well. The new shirts.
I coded that.
So with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody for coming. You passed the Crowded challenge tonight. Was making it upstairs. So congratulations.